Hello and welcome to the Exponential Edge podcast with your host, Arya Suler. I'm excited to have you join me on this journey exploring the forefront of technological advancements and innovation that will shape our future. As a sophomore at Acton Boxer Regional High School and the CEO of SecArmor, a cybersecurity startup, I have always been fascinated by the transformative power of technology. In this podcast, we will dive deep into 5 key areas that are poised for exponential growth in the next decade. We'll be exploring the realms of cybersecurity, generative AI, sustainability and climate tech, biotech and human longevity, as well as the reshoring of manufacturing. These topics hold immense potential to revolutionize our world and redefine the way we live, work, and interact. Each episode will feature insightful conversations with experts, thought leaders, and visionaries who are at the forefront of these fields. In just 30 minutes, our goal is to provide you with 5 signature nuggets of wisdom from our guests. These key takeaways will empower you with knowledge and help you stay ahead in an ever-evolving technological landscape. Without further ado, let's introduce our guest for this week. Hi everyone. Today, our guest is Dr. Melissa Levy, neuropsychologist and wellness coach. Hi Melissa. Could you please give us a brief introduction to your career and some of your interests?
Yeah, definitely. Well, first, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. This is going to be a lot of fun, I think. My career is a little messy, so I'll just give you the highlights. I actually started out as a professional musician. I got my bachelor's degree in music performance. So that was a lot of fun. I kind of just didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, but I was just headed in the direction of college, so I picked that. It was a big interest of mine. It still is. Um, so got my bachelor's degree in music, and then I had no idea what I wanted to do with that. And I think music can be really powerful, but it wasn't quite the way that I wanted to make a difference in the world. So took a couple years off. I dabbled in things like finance and volunteering and all this other stuff, and while I kind of assessed my strengths and what I wanted to do. And that's when I decided to get into psychology. I didn't have any prior experience in psychology other than, Psych 101 from my bachelor's degree. So I did some volunteer work, kind of decided to look into kind of casually how psychology might fit, and thought it was a really good option for me and my interests and my strengths. So that's when I got my master's in counseling psychology, which was really wonderful and kind of got me in the right direction. However, there's kind of a job cap, so to speak, when you have your master's, at least in the psychology realm. And so I knew that I wanted to have additional experiences, and I really wanted to focus on neuropsychology, which requires a doctorate degree. That's where my interests really fell. So I went right into my doctorate, and boom, here we are, freshly graduated and heading into my career. Um, yeah, obviously, music is still something that I'm really interested in. You don't just kind of throw that out. So, always a really important piece of me. But I think just anything that allows me to explore is something I'm interested in. So, traveling, trying new foods, going new places. Those are all the things that I
Mhm.
like doing.
Yeah. So obviously you've had a great education and you know a lot about neurology, mental health. And I do relate to music being a big part of my life since I play 3 instruments, whether it be playing the instruments or just listening to different genres of music, absorbing them. It's a big part of my life too. And it can help a lot with mental health.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that brings me to our first question for today. How does mental health hygiene contribute to the overall human longevity and well being?
Yeah, great question. So it contributes hugely. Mental health, it's probably no surprise to hear that mental health is just part of every aspect of life. You can't have a piece of your life without mental health affecting it. And so caring for your mental health is going to impact your overall life as a whole. So I'm going to kind of answer the question in reverse and start with overall well-being and then talk about longevity. But essentially, let's take depression for example. If you're struggling with depression, usually that'll look like low motivation, lots of fatigue, maybe appetite or weight troubles, difficulty concentrating and focusing. When you look at those classic symptoms of depression, there's not much, if anything, that you can do in your life that wouldn't be affected by that. Try to go to work or school or interact with your friends and family when you're feeling that way. And it's going to be very difficult to focus on schoolwork or engage with your friends when you have depression creating these symptoms. And so, I mean, that's just one example of how mental health really permeates all aspects of life. So, bottom line is caring for your mental health, whether or not you're experiencing more significant symptoms, is really going to support your overall health.
Yep, definitely.
Um,
And what are some strategies that people can take to improve their better mental health?
yeah, I think it's going to look different for everyone because everyone's mental health is at a different place and looks a little different. I mean, you've got your basics. I always encourage people to go to therapy. I think a lot of people can feel like therapy is only for when things get too tough or too extreme or when you actually have a diagnosis. But therapy is in many ways just like going to the doctor. You don't go to the doctor and when you're at your wit's end and on death's door, you go to the doctor for your regular checkups, make sure you're doing all right. And therapy can be kind of similar. It just gives you the tools to have in your toolbox to deal with everyday life and help you more effectively manage the stress of everyday life. And then there's also like being on your medication. For some people with more severe mental illness, just taking their medication on a daily basis is going to be their strategy for managing mental health. For someone else, it might be yoga or journaling or getting some regular exercise. So maintaining a lot of those healthy lifestyle habits that we think of, making time for de-stressing and decompressing, making time for socialization, getting in some nutritious food, taking care of your mind and body as in a holistic way is going to be really helpful.
Hmm. Yeah. And I'm glad that you brought up the therapy being a regular thing, like not unnatural for anyone to go to just whenever they want to. Because in high school, especially, there's kind of like a stigma, or at least I feel there's kind of a stigma between kids like, oh, he goes to therapy. What's wrong with him? Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
especially a
exactly.
normal thing.
Absolutely. I think that there's a stigma just across the board. There might be more in high school or for students, but there's this idea that if you've gone to therapy, there's something, like you said, something wrong with you, or it's so bad that you're not able to take care of it instead of just seeing it as like a maintenance tune up, helping you build your skills and be a better version of yourself.
Yeah. Hmm. And how do you think we can differentiate between just these normal emotions and bigger, more uh, influential swings in our emotions?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a little little complicated because like I said before, different people look different. So like something that we look for as clinicians when someone comes in, we look for a couple of specific things like how often are these symptoms happening, how severe are these symptoms, and how much of an impact is it having on the person's life. So those are kind of some things that we think about and look at. If you're having massive mood swings, maybe it's just once a week or once a month, but it's completely devastating and you can't go to school and you can't function and it's really interfering with your life. That's pretty significant and a little beyond what we would consider just the ups and downs of life. But on the other hand, life throws up some really big ups and downs. And so Like, it doesn't mean that you have like a significant mental health illness or a serious problem if life is just throwing you more than you can handle and it's time to get some extra support. So unfortunately, it's like super gray, and the answer is it depends. I think some key things to look for are like, do you have more downs than ups? Like, are the downs happening a lot? Do you feel like you're not able to manage the downs very well? Do you feel like it's just taking everything that you have to manage those downs? And is it getting in the way of life? So I think once those start happening, it's definitely time to start looking for some extra support.
Hmm. I think it's important to get ahead of these like huge stressors, like you said.
Yeah,
So how do you think people can use strategies to get ahead of their problems before they become way too big?
yeah. I think kind of going back to your question about mental health hygiene and just caring for yourself, I think that's really key. If you get to the point where you really, really need these tools, that's not a great time to be developing your tools. So just incorporating mental health care, mental health self care, mental health hygiene into your day to day practice is going to be essential. So you have those skills and those habits available when you really need them. So when I'm really stressed, having exams or things like that, like, I'm not usually able to care for myself as well. I forget to eat or get bad sleep or don't, de-stress well. But if I already have that built into my lifestyle and I know how to access those habits easily, it's going to be a lot easier for me to use those when it's stressful. And also the idea of like having extra skills for extra tough times is really helpful. So maybe you don't go to therapy all the time and you've got your self-care tools that you need for general life. But life gets a little more difficult. Maybe that's when you go back to therapy and get that extra support.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, it is really important to have a support system, but also be able to be self-supportive as well whenever you need to.
Yeah, community is a great tool, but it's just one of the tools in your toolbox.
Hmm. And I wanted to shift gears a little bit. So I'm an athlete, so I wanted to talk about how food choices and nutrition affect mental health, since it does affect me at a personal level as well, and a lot of viewers here and in my high school as well. So how do you think that food choices and nutrition affect mental health? And are there like specific foods or dietary restrictions that can mess with you or be helpful for you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge, huge question with lots of wonderful information. Um, food and nutrition can absolutely affect your mental health. And really, the bottom line is mental health and physical health are all interconnected. Like, it's all in the same body, working off of the same systems. And if our bodies are not functioning optimally or to the best that we can support them, it's going to take a toll on our mental health. And actually, vice versa. There's a lot of research showing that mental health can really affect our physical health. Um, so, yes, giving your body the nutrients that it needs, things that it needs to operate as best as possible is absolutely going to support your mental health. Now, on the flip side of that, there's no like magic diet or magic food that's going to like cure mental health, because a lot of mental health can actually be biologically based. So, those are pieces that we can't necessarily manipulate with food or nutrition, but helping your body be like a well-oiled machine that's getting the fuel that it needs is going to support you from a well-rounded point of view. Some foods that can be really helpful. Well, let me actually backtrack. There are some studies that show that the Mediterranean diet can be really great for mental health, and that's for a couple of main reasons. The first one is that the Mediterranean diet just incorporates a huge variety of meats and fish and vegetables and fruits and whole grains. So essentially, you're just getting a huge variety of nutrients and vitamins and minerals. So that's one of the reasons it works. The other reason is that it incorporates a lot of fish and seafood. So you're getting a lot of omega 3s, which are essential for your heart health and your brain health. And the heart and the brain are actually pretty interconnected. Poor heart health is linked to cognitive decline, strokes, things like that. So those are the two main reasons that those diets really work. The Mediterranean diet really works. And there are also some studies looking at blue zones. Blue zones are areas of the world, little pockets throughout the world where people have the longest lifespans. And they have very similar diets, wide variety of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, fish, and seafood. But they also really focus on socializing and supportive community in those areas. So I know that's not like nutrition, but that's also a really important aspect.
Yeah, and that's perfect because it brings me to the next question, which is what role does the social support system play in mental health maintenance and longevity? How can we
Yeah,
foster meaningful connections with others?
absolutely. Well, I'm glad you asked that because, like I already pointed out, it does have a pretty significant connection. Studies have shown that social support is really important to cognitive performance. So, just like your general thinking skills, community socializing, it really enhances thinking skills and helps reduce risk for cognitive decline as we age. So it's incredibly important, and it's also shown to be a really good like support, just general support for mental health. I think in the society that we live in now, it can be a little bit of a catch 22 because we have access to so much with social media now and the internet. And I think we can't like the health benefits are there, absolutely, but we can also suddenly be exposed to really negative stimuli a lot of the time, just with the touch of a button. And that can actually negatively impact mental health. Um, so essentially, like building up social support is very important. Looking for people who have similar values, similar goals, people who support you. And thankfully, we have access to a lot of additional people through social media that we wouldn't normally have. But I think meaningful connection really comes when you're putting your energy into the people who give it back and the people who share values and interests. And it's, absolutely fine to meet new people and join new friend groups and explore. I think that's really essential to being human and learning. But when it comes to building meaningful connections, just making sure that our energy is going into people and places that are giving energy back.
Hmm. Yeah, and social media can be good for mental health too. I know, like a lot of the high-end media just like frowns upon it, like this generation. But like we connected through social media. We made this possible through
Exactly.
social media.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. I think of social media as a tool. You can use a tool for harm, you can use a tool for good.
Hmm.
Um, so, yeah.
Yeah. So, are there any common misconceptions about the topic of mental health that you frequently encounter when you're doing neuropsychology?
Absolutely. I think we hit on a really big one earlier, and that's just generally the stigma. Mental health has come really far, and I think mental health awareness has come really far in the last few years, but this stigma really seems to be sticking. And you talked about seeing that in high schoolers, and I see it really across the lifespan still. Just this idea that if you are seeking out help, it's because there's something wrong with you and you weren't good enough to fix it or strong enough to fix it on your own. And it shows that you're weak or just, something's wrong. But it's a huge double standard because we don't think that way about our physical health. If you come down with an illness and you don't know what it is and you haven't been able to kick it, you go to the doctor. And people don't go, oh, you're so weak for going to the doctor and getting antibiotics. Nobody says that. You just go to the doctor, you take care of yourself, and you know that you'll come out on the other end a lot healthier and happier. So it's a huge double standard. Nobody, nobody's going to question you going to the doctor, but people will question you up and down for going and getting mental health support or being on medication. Medication is a big one that I see a lot of stigma around. People don't want to be on medication for mental health. They feel like they should have to be able to manage it on their own, manage their symptoms on their own. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of mental health concerns are biologically based. So you can optimize your environment. You can have great people supporting you. You can eat the right things, get enough sleep, drink enough water, and take care of yourself to the best of your ability. But if that biological component is still there, there's the chance you'll probably need more support. In which case, medication is going to be a huge, important factor in living your best life possible. And so I think it's a really big shame that there's such a stigma around it.
Yeah. And I kind of want to delve deeper into that. I might go off on a tangent, but I don't want to bring it up. I don't know if you've watched the NBA or follow the NBA at all,
A little
but
bit.
yeah. Do you know the player Ben Simmons?
Yeah.
All right.
Not, I mean,
So,
don't trust my knowledge on him though.
so a few years ago, he played for the Philadelphia 76ers,
Hmm.
and they were in the playoffs, and it was a game seven against Atlanta. And with a few minutes left in the game, fourth quarter, he took a wide open, or well, he had the opportunity to take a wide open layup against like a small point guard, and
Mm-hmm.
he just was too scared to take the shot, and he passed it. And that kind of spiraled into a long stretch where they lost the series, their season was over,
Mm-hmm.
and there were trade rumors around him. And then he sat out the next season.
Mm-hmm.
And the media and fans were completely like, he's sitting out, he's scared to play. And for him, he stated after a few months that it was for mental health reasons that he sat out. And he was traded to the Brooklyn Nets. And again, he stated it was mental health reasons. And I think it got to a point eventually where he didn't, he couldn't use that excuse anymore. But
Mm-hmm.
there was definitely some truth in like mental health, or like I guess a mental health injury. And it's
Yeah.
kind of a it's kind of a weird thing in sports because physical injuries are taken so seriously. Like, oh, he tore his Achilles, he's out for the season. We need to give him all the help he needs. Nobody's really like frowns upon someone taking time off for a physical injury. But this was kind of the first instance where mental health was being talked about in the same way.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't accept it. Like, I think a part of it is that people thought, oh, he's 6'10", he's an athlete, he's a grown man. What mental health issues could he possibly have? He's getting paid millions of dollars to play basketball. But I kind of
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about
I've heard multiple times people say, "Oh, he gets paid millions of dollars, so whatever he's experiencing, it's not a big deal." But mental health doesn't care what your background is, what you look like, what your gender is, how you identify, or how much you're getting paid. Mental health is affects everyone, and mental health, there are actually trained sports psychologists because mental health in athletes has been such a concern, but more behind the scenes. I don't think it's publicized, which
it. Hmm.
once
Yeah,
again, kind of that stigma. We're okay with someone sitting out for a torn Achilles. We're not okay with someone sitting out because they have debilitating anxiety or crippling depression.
yeah.
That's
Hmm.
not okay to us. So I think you kind of nailed it. Like, there's a stigma even in the high echelons of sports and performance, and those athletes are under incredible amounts of stress. Like, I could never imagine having the whole world watching me while I slip up and thinking about how I would handle that successfully.
Yeah.
It's like we sit here, I'm like, oh, I didn't graduate the year that I wanted to graduate. And that's like a huge, injury to my soul. And, I battle with that or whatever. But, and then you take it to that level and all eyes are on him and so much is at stake for him. And that happens. And it's like, how do you deal with that? So, yeah, I mean, mental health doesn't discriminate.
Mhm. Yeah. So I want to bring it, like, close it with a question about that can help some of our viewers, some of our demographics,
Mhm.
which is high school and college students.
Yeah.
So in the current United States environment, high school and college students face unique challenges in terms of mental health, like including stressors like social media, like exposure to gun violence as well in schools. And how do you think these stressors specifically impact the mental well-being of students?
Mhm. I think they impact students quite a bit. I think you you really got it right when you said they're unique stressors. And kind of starting with the millennials and going on into all of the younger generations, these are new things that our society has never had to face before. And this is my personal opinion, but I don't think society has caught up with supporting the youth and the students to the extent that the stressors have occurred, if that makes sense. So we're seeing more and more gun violence at schools. So on top of worrying about grades and careers and what comes next and family problems and learning how to be, an adult, like students are also fearing for their lives. And it's a huge stress. And we know that stress is a massive impact on mental health. It's really hard to feel happy and supported and focus on school when you're worried about your safety and your well-being. And then on top of all of that, social media, while it can be a great tool, we met on social media, it can be a great tool. It can be a wonderful way to connect and, promote healthy ideas and, innovation. But at the same time, it has also become a tool for bullying and threatening and, developing negative viewpoints and sharing those around the world. It used to be that bullying might happen at school or on the bus or on your walk, but now it can happen at school, on the bus, on the walk, and at home at any hour. Cyberbullying is a huge problem that society has not caught up with. And so I think one of the biggest problems for these generations right now is that the stress, in a lot of ways, just doesn't end. You're not getting a break from it. And so that constant barrage of stress can be really hard to manage and can really negatively affect mental health.
Yeah. So, how do you think we can address these issues? Solve them? Well, maybe not solve them, but at least work towards getting there.
Yeah, yeah. I wish I had like the magic, golden key, like here's what you do. Of course, it's a little more complicated. I think kind of if you're old, if you can vote, definitely vote. It feels really small. It can feel really insignificant, but it's your one little piece in bringing in people who will help provide safety and who will offer, more progressive governance to protect students, but also accessing student governments. If you have it at your high school, have it at your college, accessing your student government is a great way to institute change, at least on a smaller level, in your smaller community at your school. Talking to your principals or your deans can be a really great start. I think a lot of times people get just really bogged down by developing curriculum and running just day-to-day life and making your voice heard. That can be hard, but it's really essential. I think a lot of times people are just unaware of the concerns that a lot of students have. As a someone who was a student just a couple of weeks ago, I can really resonate with that feeling of like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I'm just one student. I feel so overlooked in so many ways. And making your voice heard where you can. And then also, um, like boundaries, I think are really, really important. This is something that folks can implement in their day to day lives when it comes to social media and just the constant negative inputs that we can get from social media. It can be difficult, but setting boundaries, that might be blocking people or muting people on your platform that just really bring you down, or watching the pages that you scroll through. Is it really helping you feel uplifted and feel better about life? So monitoring and setting boundaries with the inputs that we receive, just to help manage our own mental health and support ourselves where we can.
Hmm. Yeah, those are all great points, especially mental health being overlooked in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So, finally, could you just provide your five key takeaways, your five golden nuggets of information from this conversation?
I will try. I think number one, this is just like some thoughts from my own journey. And it's like life is messy and that's okay. When I was in high school and getting into college, I felt so much pressure to know what I needed to do, where I was going, what I was going to do with my life, what my next steps were. And there's just like crazy expectations around that area of life, and it's okay. Your first career doesn't have to be your only career or your last career. Obviously, I changed careers. I went back to school twice. So, you'll get where you need to go, and making sure that you're focusing on yourself and your needs and what you want to do with your life, and trying to monitor those expectations that can really get in our heads. So I think that's takeaway number one. Takeaway number two is mental health gets really stigmatized and really overlooked a lot of the times, but it is so incredibly important. And with that said, just to encourage everyone to focus on mental health. Don't allow that to be overlooked by the people around you or yourself. Don't let it don't let it go by the wayside. Invest in your mental health consistently every day if you can. You won't regret it. It contributes to your well-being in the present time, as well as your longevity and your health overall in the future. And then I think number three, investing in a healthy lifestyle will absolutely support your mental health 100%. Feeding your body and your brain, getting yourself enough sleep, taking yourself to the doctor when you need to, investing in your care. It's all money in the bank for your mental health and your cognitive health. But number four is, with that said, there's like no magic pill. There's no like magic key or magic diet. Consistent small baby steps, as boring and unfun as that sounds, is always going to be the key to wellness. Whether that's mental health wellness, physical wellness, taking those consistent steps, making mental health care a part of your everyday routine, that's where success lies. If anyone tries to like sell you the magic supplement or whatever it might be, they're just trying to make money off of you. So consistency is key. And then number five, I think is less of a takeaway and more of an acknowledgement to what students are experiencing today. The stress is really high. The expectations are really high. Social media imposes a lot of like just bizarre and unrealistic expectations for how you should be and look and act and what success looks like. And I wish that as a society we were past that, but we're definitely not. And so I just want to acknowledge like the additional struggles aside from just school and work and learning how to be who you want to be. I think it's a lot. And I am here to support, and I know that the mental health community is here to support, and it's something that is really important and I know the mental health community, at least, is really focused on how to address these unique challenges. And so you're not alone. We're working on it. It's slow. And to just understand that it is hard and reach out when you need to.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today and providing your input on this topic, Melissa. And thanks everyone for watching this episode of the Exponential Edge. Join us next time as we delve into topics that will see exponential adoption and importance in the future. Bye, everyone. Bye, Melissa.
Thank you. Bye.